Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, the local minister at the Prince George's Church of Christ, and we're located at 7800 Central Avenue in Landover, Maryland. This week, we're doing a series of lessons in Family Basics 101 that focus on people. People are just people wherever you go. And regardless of the country, regardless of the nationality, regardless of the citizenship, as we talked about on yesterday, people in general are just people. When we talk about demographics, well, demonym is an adjective referring to an individual from a particular place or nation. And depending on that particular place or nation, that's going to be the specific demonym of the individual, but they are still people. Yesterday, we concluded by looking at the text of Ephesians chapter 3 and Philippians chapter 3. For this cause, I bow my knee unto the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, of whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named. So when we talk about the family of God, the people of God, that's not just us in earth. God has a family in heaven, but we can get beside ourselves as God's people in this earth and think God doesn't have a family somewhere else. God has a family eternal in the heavens. And in Philippians 3, the text, for our citizenship. Now, those of us who are tabernacling through this earth, our citizenship is in heaven. We may have dual citizenship, but the citizenship in this earth is temporary. But our real place of citizenship is in heaven. So today, let's talk about people and the ability that is inside of people. People, each and every one, has something wired inside that, if developed, will put in motion a specific pattern of behavior and behavioral interactions that cascade like a ripple into others. So what I'm trying to say is each one of us has wired inside of us something that came from our creator in heaven. And if that is developed and put into motion properly, it's going to cascade and it's going to move into the lives of other people. Now, it's going to cascade and move whether it's developed properly or improperly. Our challenge is to make sure that as people, we develop our abilities in a meaningful way. People abilities are often viewed as a proper mixture of passion, wisdom, and physical, mental, and emotional endowments that can be adjusted to address life's events, whether large or small. You may hear the term adaptability. God's people are made to be adaptable. That's who we are. But people's abilities are often viewed as I just can't adjust. I can't adapt. But yet, people, as created by God, are very adaptable. And the abilities are to be viewed properly as a mixture of passion, wisdom, the physical stamina, the mental discernment, and the emotional balance, the emotional endowment that can be adjusted throughout the lifespan of the individual. People have the ability to communicate and share task responsibilities in an effective and friendly manner, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. See, people are amazing, but people have abilities to communicate if they choose, abilities to share task responsibilities in an effective and friendly manner if they choose. Have you ever met people and they don't communicate? Hey, hi, bye. That's a choice. That is an absolute choice, because God has made us with the abilities, if we choose, if they're properly developed. He has made people with the ability to communicate and to share task responsibilities in an effective and in a friendly manner. Some might refer to people abilities as interpersonal, social, emotional, uh, emotional intelligence, or interpersonal intelligence. Uh, it doesn't matter how you label it. What I want us to be impressed with is God has given each person abilities. And how we choose to utilize those abilities are determined by how others have helped us develop them, or how we've chosen to become resistant to how others attempted to help us develop. Let me share with you this next little slide and see if this help to clarify that. According to Peter Taylor in The Birth of Project Intelligence, abilities can be subdivided into 6 abilities. So when we talk about people and their abilities, this is what Peter Taylor would argue. People have the ability to be adaptability to an environment or change in their current environment. So no matter what the current environment is, Peter Taylor says you can change in the middle of that. Each person has the ability to do that. Second, each person has the ability, the capacity for knowledge and the ability to acquire it. But that's a choice. It's amazing how we are made. Taylor further argues each person has the capacity for reason and abstract thought. When you talk about people just seeing black or white, that's because that's what they have adjusted to. But people can reason beyond black and white, and people can reason to be more broad, abstract in their thinking if they choose to do so. Taylor further argues that people have the ability to comprehend relationships. Now, people may say, I don't want to, I choose not to, I don't like to, I'm not going to, but that does not properly address the innate ability inside of a person. What a person chooses to do, refuses to do, is not the same as saying the person doesn't have the ability to do. Taylor further argues that people have the ability to evaluate and judge. In other words, people can take a step back and they really can see is what I'm doing right now, is it profitable to the environment I'm in? Or is it just self-serving to me? People have the ability at the end of an action or inaction, people have the ability to discern, you know what? I'm not contributing anything positive to this situation, and I know it. I'm not being fair in my judgment about this, and I know it. Taylor finally argues that people have the ability, the capacity for original and productive thought. People are not parrots. People have the ability, people have the capacity to be creative. If you tell me, I'll do it. If you show me, I'll do it the way you showed me. No. The way God made us, and Peter Taylor in the Birth Project has discovered that people have the capacity for original and productive thought. Have you ever heard people say, well, I do exactly what I'm told and I don't do anything different. If this is what they expect of me, this is what they get. But what about if I see something different? For instance, I just returned from a trip to the West Coast. And on one of the legs of the flight, I observed something in the walkway. And as a passenger, it wasn't my responsibility at all to address what I saw in the walkway. It wasn't written in my ticket. The stewardesses, the pilot, nobody said, don't touch this, don't touch that. But as an individual with the capacity to reason, abstract thinking, ability to comprehend that if this stays right where it is, it's going to impede the boarding process or somebody's going to get hurt. So the capacity for original and productive thought said, pick it up. That's what Taylor is saying. People have the capacity for original and productive thought. And what that also says, it takes away this old adage about, I did exactly what they told me to do. I said exactly what they expected me to say. I've learned to keep my mouth shut. People, we are fearfully and we are wonderfully made. People have ability, but that ability is given from God. In Matthew chapter 13, and I would encourage you to read the totality of Matthew 13 from about verse 8 to the end, but just watch these verses for the sake of time today. Chapter 13, verse 9, whoever has ears, let them hear. Well, I haven't met 5 people in my lifetime who don't have physical ears. So what is Jesus saying? If we have ears to discern, ears to listen, ears to process, the ability, then use the ability. Use the ability to make life better for oneself and to make life better for others. We have the ability. In verse 13, this is why Jesus said, I speak to them in simplicities. I always give them an illustrative story that they can connect with. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. Jesus says, but I speak to them in parables. This is why. Because people have become so accustomed to not using the ability that I gave them. They see, but they say, I don't know. I can't see that. Here they're saying, I don't hear it that way. I don't understand it that way. You will be, according to Isaiah the prophet, you will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving, because you're not using the abilities that God has given you. For this people's heart, now watch this. This people's heart has become calloused. When people fail or refuse to use the abilities that God has given them, what has caused the calcification of their willingness? People don't just wake up one day with a mindset that I'm not going to use my ability in the way that God has charged me to use it. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. You know what that means? They hear what they want to hear, and they do what they want to do when it's advantageous to them personally. Anything else is just chatter. Their hearts have become calloused. They barely hear. They have closed their eyes, but have you ever closed your eyes, but you can still see a little bit? And if it's something that really grabs your attention, you can open them. That's what Jesus is saying. But anything that does not personally appeal to the individual, they will not allow their abilities to shine through. Otherwise, look at that. They might see with their eyes, and they might hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. If a person would just say, God has granted me a gift, God has filled me with abilities. If we would just embrace that and just see and hear and understand and say, God, just use me. God says, I will heal you of whatever caused the callousness, the hardness, the coldness that you are experiencing. Let me invite you to return to class with me again tomorrow, and we will continue talking about people. This is a great series. Don't be late and don't skip class.